Hare Krishna, everybody. Hare Krishna. That's better. Maybe I had too much prasadam maybe today. Today we're going to do the Bhagavad Gita class. We're going to cover two verses today from chapter 4. And chapter 4 is about the eternal education system that Krishna created for us so that we can understand how to live our lives properly. So before we start that, we're just going to do a little prayer. So do sing along if you know it. Jai Radha Madhav.
Sorry? Yeah, sure. I'll speak loudly.
Okay. Okay, start.
Yeah, you start.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Gokul Nanda Shri Radhe Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman.
Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman.
Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. That was beautiful singing. Okay, before I start with the verses, I want to put out a question to everybody. Raise your hands if you chant, if you've got a bead bag, got some beads. Okay. Leave your hands up if you chant 16 rounds. Minimum 16. Excellent. Now think in your minds about the issues you have when you chant, when your mind wanders, when things happen, get in the way, things you think about when you should be thinking about your chanting. Just bear that in mind for now. And then when as I talk along, you see why I'm asking this question. So this is chapter 4. We're going to do verses 4.9 and 4.10. And Krishna gives us an eternal education system, much like the education system we have in the material world. And that education system is so that we know how to live our lives, how to live perfectly, and what we need to do to live our lives perfectly. So, it's pretty much like if you imagine a university. In a university, you need staff and you need teachers. So, Krishna's version of that, if you have a Bhagavad Gita, if you look at the front in the introduction, there is a whole list starting from Krishna all the way down to Srila Prabhupada. That's the parampara. These are all the past acharyas. So those in the eternal system are our staff and our teachers. They are our teachers teaching us what to do. In the university, you have entrance qualifications. So you've got to pass certain exams to get into that university. In the eternal education system, Krishna says that your entrance qualifications are that you must have a good heart, and that you must be non-envious, and that you must be devoted to Krishna. All these things. These are the qualifications to get into that eternal education system. And then, of course, at university, what is your graduate success? When you graduate, you get your degree and you go off and get yourself a job and then live your life. In the eternal education system, what is the graduate success? The graduate success, well, that's what's explained in these two verses, in 4.9 and then 4.10. Now, in 4.9, Krishna says, he starts off, and his first line in the verse says, Janma karma cha me divyam. He says, Janma karma, Janma, my birth, karma, my activities, cha me divyam. Divyam is transcendental. So he's saying what you need to understand is that my birth and my activities are transcendental. And if you understand that fully, factually, then you can attain me. So Krishna's birth, of course, wasn't normal. It wasn't like our birth. He was born in a prison. He was born with 4 arms. He came out decked out in beautiful jewels, and he could speak. Not quite like the birth we have. Where I see little kids around here. You can imagine some of the parents, what would happen if when they were born, they came out with jewels and could speak. It was shocking, right? So Krishna was born with a transcendental body. And then he goes on to say, Evam yo veti tattvaha. One who knows about Krishna factually, about his birth and his karma. Those who truly know the divine nature of my birth and pastimes, they attain me. And for those who do, he says, Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti. Tvaktya means to abandon or to leave, to let go. Deham means body. So tyaktva deham, when you leave the body, punarjanma naiti, you will not be born back here. He goes on then to say, not only that, but mam eti so Arjuna. He's talking to Arjuna at the moment. He's telling him about this. And he says, not only will you not take birth back in this material world, but you will attain me and you will come back to my spiritual world. So the translation for this verse says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, or Arjuna. So in text 9, Lord Krishna has explained that those who truly know the divine nature of his birth and pastimes attain him. We need to understand that Krishna's birth and activities are transcendental, but if we misunderstand that and take him to be a human like us, Prabhupada says we become muddas, fools. Krishna's body is not composed of material elements like ours. And if we think this, then we are truly mistaken. There is a verse in the 9th chapter, 11th verse. Krishna says, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. He's saying fools. These are fools who think that I come down and I'm a normal human being like everybody else. He's not. Now, if we attain Krishna by understanding factually that his birth and activities, his janma karma, are transcendental, divyam, then how do we do this? How do we understand this? Krishna goes on into text 10 and he says, okay, now I'm going to tell you. And he says that many, it's not just now I'm telling you, many human beings in past kalpas, past ages, have become God-realized by understanding this about me. They achieved this goal by purifying their minds through devotion. But how do we purify the mind? Well, Krishna goes on to say, the question is, how can one attain you through the knowledge of your janma karma? How do we do this? Any ideas by anybody? Any ideas of how we can get to know Krishna and his real transcendental ways? No? Luckily I'm going to tell you.
Reading the scriptures.
Reading the scriptures. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes? Through disciplic succession, yes. The acharyas, past acharyas, yeah. Anything else? Devotion, yeah. Absolutely. You said the magic word. What did you say? Chanting. There you go. The magic word. Every scripture that you read, the final instruction is take up the holy name. That's what we need to do. That's where it all starts. When you start chanting, that's when the purification starts. And when the purification starts and Krishna knows that you're serious about getting to know him, that's when he starts to give you the knowledge that you need. So in this verse 10, Krishna is saying, he's explaining now what you need to do. He says, do this. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mam upashrite bhavo jnana tapasya bhutamad bhavam agataha. Let's just break this down a little bit. He says in the first line, Vitarag bhaya krodha. Krishna says there's three things that you need to do. Three things. Vita means to free yourself. So what are the three things that we need to free ourselves from? First he says Vita rag. Rag is attachment. What do we mean by attachment? What do you think Krishna means when he says free yourself of attachment? Anybody? Yeah, materialistic. What kind of materialistic attachment? Give me some examples. What kind of things do you think Krishna's telling you to free yourself off from these attachments? Anything? Material attachments is right. But sometimes it's good to know examples of, because material attachments encompasses a lot. But what kind of things affects us? What material attachments do we have that you think Krishna... Yes? Perfect. Bodily attachment. Indeed. We identify ourselves as this body, not the soul. And this is where our problems start. The body is temporary, the soul is eternal. And so Krishna is saying, start getting rid of these attachments that you have. One of Prabhupada's disciples, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, absolutely brilliant speaker. If you ever get a chance to listen to him, please listen to him, because he speaks just like Prabhupada did. Very straightforward. And he said he asked this question, what is the attachment to? Attachment to, as Prabhu said, bodily conception of life. We think that I'm Indian, I'm British, I'm man, I'm woman. This is my wife, this is my husband. These are where all your problems start. I'm not saying your husbands and wives are problems. That's not what I'm saying. But the fact that you have these attachments means this is where the problems start. Because you're thinking of yourself as me, this body, not the soul that sits here. So, Prabhupada says in the purport of this verse, he says it's very difficult for a person who is materially affected to understand the personal nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Krishna. Some people, he says, are so attracted to money and material things that they will never get attracted to Krishna. Never. Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, because we are so attached to the body, we have no time for the soul. We kind of dress the body, we clean the body, but what do we do for the soul? We have no time for the soul. So he says, people will work for 8 hours. People will sleep for 8 hours. People will have some entertainment, watch TV, do whatever for a few hours. But then you ask them, how many hours have you spent praying today? How many hours have you thought about Krishna? How many hours have you read about Krishna? Not many. I haven't got time for that. I've got a busy life. I've got a family. I've got a job. My friend's birthday, I've got to go out tonight. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm still young. All these excuses start coming out. As one time I went to the Soho temple. We were doing the homeless feed there, Food for Life, which is Srila Prabhupada's vision. And I took a new devotee with me. He'd just been practicing Krishna consciousness for just a little while and only just started chanting. And at the temple I knew a very advanced devotee, brilliantly knowledgeable, and I used to like speaking to him. So I introduced my new devotee friend to speak to him. And we were chatting about Krishna and everything was pleasant. And then at one point he said, how many rounds do you chant? And I told him I was doing my minimum, 16. And my friend said, I'm doing 1 round. And this advanced devotee, he sort of said straight away, he said, how many hours are there in the day? And we kind of both looked at each other like, wow, what's going on here? And he shouted again, how many hours, I'm asking you, are there in a day? So, well, maybe this is a trick question, I don't know, but I guess 24. He said 24 hours and you're doing one round. And of course, the thing is here, is that when a very advanced devotee speaks to you, you have to take what they say in a different way to what anybody else might say. An advanced devotee will tell you things in no uncertain terms to make you a better person. He's not having a go at you, he's not trying to humiliate you. What he is trying to do is give you some knowledge. You've got 24 hours in a day. Are you telling me you can just spend 8 minutes to do one round in that whole of that day? Take a look at what you're doing. Increase it. Increase it to 2 rounds. And then you'll be inclined to increase it to 3 and 4. But he was right. 24 hours in a day, we need to spend more time doing something a bit more Krishna conscious related. There's a book called The Nectar of Instruction. And Srila Prabhupada did a commentary on Rupa Goswami's teachings. And he says, there's a question in there, it says, what is the essence of all advice? Oh, wow, that's a big question. What is the essence of all advice? And Rupa Goswami says, to utilize one's time 24 hours a day in chanting and remembering Krishna's name. That is our aim in life. And then you get to know remembering Krishna's name and fame and qualities and pastimes. And then you start developing love for Krishna. Now, I know people have commitments, they have family, they have jobs, they have things that they have to do. You've got to have your upkeep. But here's one thing, let me ask you a question. If I said to you, tomorrow, I'm offering all of you, anyone who wants it, a free 5-day holiday in a 5-star hotel, first-class travel, food, everything included. The only thing is that you have to go tomorrow. I'm kind of thinking that a lot of people say, you know what, I fancy a bit of that. And quite happily ring up their boss and say, I'm not really well. I'll be off for a few days. Or I'd like some holiday for 5 days. Everyone would jump at you, right? You're getting a first-class holiday for nothing. Why would you turn that down? However, what if I instead said to you, why don't you take 5 days off tomorrow? Come and join me. We're going to sit down. We're going to chant. We're going to read some scriptures. We're going to sing some kirtans. We're going to think about Krishna. We're going to make some prasadam. And we just do that for 5 days. But you have to do it from tomorrow. I'm guessing I'm getting excuses like my boss won't let me. I don't know, the kids have got to go to school. I've got a lot on at work. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. All the excuses will start coming out. So, we should really think about how we spend our day. What are we doing with it? Are we spending time thinking about Krishna, serving Krishna in any way whatsoever? And it doesn't mean you have to come here and do, what we see here with the advanced devotees. Serving Krishna means just doing a round of chanting at home, just a prayer at home, just reading 15 minutes of the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's serving Krishna as well. Just sitting and thinking of Krishna, talking to somebody and telling them, you don't have to be a great preacher. You can tell them anything you know about Krishna, and that's preaching, and that's serving Krishna. So there are there's favorable attachments. We were talking about attachments just now. 2 types of attachments. There's favorable and unfavorable attachment. Favorable attachment is called sneha. For example, if you really like somebody, but you become really attached to them in a very clingy way, that's a kind of favorable attachment. But there's an unfavorable one as well, and that's called dvaisha. For example, when you really dislike somebody. The problem is that either attachment, whether good or bad, is going to hinder your spiritual progress. We need to know where we stand. We need to know who we are, where we stand. In the nectar instruction it says, Jivera Swarup Hoya Krishnera Nityadas. Jivera, of the living being, living entity. Swarup means your constitutional position. Krishnera Nityadas. Das means servant, Nitya means eternal. So the constitutional position of all of us, all us living entities, is that of eternal servant of Krishna. And therefore we should be spending more time thinking of Krishna. So, those who are attached in this material world, there's a word called durashriya. It means bad or false shelter. People try to find happiness in this world in the wrong places. So, for example, somebody might think, I need to buy a house. And they'll go away and buy a two-bedroom house, and they'll think, that's what's going to make me happy. Then they buy this two-bedroom house, stay in it for a while, and suddenly they think, wow, it's not really big enough. I know what would really make me happy. Then I will really be happy, and that's it. I need a bigger house. So they go and buy a 4-bedroom house. Then they live in there for a little while, and they think, I know I said I was going to be happy like this, but there's just a little bit more I need that will make me happy. So they go and buy another house with a swimming pool in it. I can swim all day now, and I'm really going to be happy. It never stops. It never stops. Because once you have the one thing, you want the next and the next. Nothing in this world is going to make you happy. Krishna describes this world as dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Alayam means a place of, and dukkha means misery. Ashashvatam means temporary. Krishna says that this world is a temporary world of misery. Everything's temporary, it's all miserable. If you're sitting in your life thinking, I am content, everything's fine, I don't really need anything else, I'm not going to, trust me, that's a problem. Krishna will put obstacles in your way to teach you that you're not content in this life because we were never supposed to be here, we were supposed to be back with Him. We came here because we wanted to see what it was like to be away from Krishna. And Krishna, being so merciful, said, there you go, here's a world, I've given you demigods, all the mantras that you need, have a nice, simple life, check out what it's like to be without me, and then just come back, please. That's all I need. I need you to come back to me. But what do? We just stuck here, and we loved it here, and we built factories, and we built cars, and we built this and built that. And we thought, yes, this is a place of happiness. No, it isn't. If you want real happiness, it's back up there with Krishna. So Krishna says, what was the first thing that he said, free yourself of? Anyone listening? What were the three things? There's one first thing that we just talked about. What is it that he said? Free attachments. Thank you, Prabhu. Somebody's listening, see? That's why he's sitting at the front of the class. Okay, so the second thing he says, free yourself of, is bhaya, fear. What do you suppose he mean by that? Free yourself of fear. Fear of what? Any ideas? It's very quiet on this side of the classroom, I noticed. All the answers are coming from here. Fear of what? What are we fearing? Losing things? Materials. So you've worked hard, you've bought a house, you've got a car, you've I don't know, got a business, whatever, you're afraid of losing that. Okay, yeah, that's that fear as well. Fear of, who said that? Fear of letting go. Yeah, fantastic. Fear of letting go is a very good answer indeed. What are we afraid of? Prabhupada says, because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them. What does that mean? I was listening to a lecture by an absolutely brilliant speaker, Radhesham Das. He's in India. He said, so some people have this fear. He said they look at themselves, I've got this body, I go through this illness, I get old, I die, I rebirth, go through the whole thing again, and I have this body. And then they look at the spiritual world and they say, well, there's Radha and there's Krishna and there's the Gopas, there's the Gopis. Everyone's got a body and everything's just, life is just going on. Well, hold on. I already have that here. I already have that here. Why do I need to go to the spiritual world and go through all that again? So they have this fear that I've already got this and now I'm going to go up to the spiritual world and I'm going to have to go through all this palaver again. So they end up saying, I don't want that. I don't want to go to a place where there's bodies. I want to go to a place where there is no bodies. Anybody know what they're talking about? Brahmajyoti, exactly. So for those who don't know, Brahmajyoti is like, Srila Prabhupada uses this analogy quite a lot, like the sun. When you see the sun is there, you can see it, but the rays from the sun, that's what the Brahmajyoti is of Krishna. So certain people, like Mayavadis, think like this. They say that you're God, you're God, you're God, I'm God, everybody's God. We're just here contaminated by this material contamination. And once that's off, we're all going to merge into this one thing. They don't have a word for it. And that's it. That's where we are. So they think we're going to merge into this kind of energy of some sort. They don't believe that Krishna is a person and that we are servitors to Krishna. So this is what these people think. They don't want this body, and this is what the fear is. They have this fear that they're going to have to live. What they don't understand is that here we have material bodies. In the spiritual world, we have spiritual bodies. We don't go through this cycle of birth and death. We don't have disease. We have nothing that's going to make us unhappy. We're in eternal bliss up there. Krishna is a desire tree. He can give you everything you want, and you will be happy serving him. So, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, I like listening to him. He says some brilliant things. That there are three types of sufferings we have in life. There's adhyatmika klesh. That is sufferings of the mind. Suffering on the mind and the body. So, we have so many mental problems these days. And the body, as it grows older, gets with us, gives us all sorts of problems. We also have adhibhotika klesh. And that is sufferings from other beings, other living entities. And I don't just mean human beings, I mean animals and all living entities. And finally, we have adhidaivika klesh. And that is sufferings that the demigods have given us through natural occurrences like earthquakes and floods and all these kind of things. Okay. The two things then. What was the first one? Attachment. Good. And the second one? Fear. So we've got two of the three things out the way. Krishna has explained to us what we need to get rid of. The final thing, he says, if you want to get to know me and my transcendental self, then you need to get rid of your anger, krodh. Get rid of your anger. Any ideas on what he means by that? What anger have we got that we should be getting rid of? Any ideas? The anger comes from this. A lot of people get, they hear things about religion and about God. There's many, many commentaries on God and religion, and there are many speakers on it. The problem is that people hear these things and they get frustrated because one person is saying this, one person is saying that, one person's opinion is this, one person, and they get really frustrated. And that frustration then leads to anger because they can't get the right information. Now, anyone who's got the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, will note that the title of the Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavad Gita as it is. The reason he's named it as it is because Srila Prabhupada has taken the words of Krishna and translated them exactly. He's not gone in and said, well, I think this, I think that. Maybe Krishna was wrong on this. I think it really should be like this. No. It's like Shruti and Smriti. Shruti is directly from Krishna, the words of Krishna. Smriti is like commentaries on that. But so Srila Prabhupada, so our purports in the Bhagavad Gita are like that. But he's taken what Krishna said and he's translated it exactly so that we know exactly what Krishna wants us to know. Here's the problem. People have this frustration and this anger because you've seen sometimes on TV, you see this in America quite a lot. You see this like massive auditorium kind of place, thousands of people there. There's a man standing up on stage and he's dressed in an immaculate suit. Hair is perfect. He's got a nice tan. And he's got his people going up and down the rows collecting money for him. And his arms are waving about and hallelujah and this and that. He's telling them all this and that. The problem is these people then sometimes find out that that same person who was preaching to us on that stage, when he's in his own room and that, he's a completely different person and the life he leads is not what he's preaching. And so people get frustrated with that and get very angry with that. What you really need to do is read from the acharyas, read from the likes of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada says that this is what Krishna has said, and this is what the truth is. So people turn to this anger, and because they get so angry, then they turn to certain things to try and get over this anger. They'll turn to intoxication of some sort. They'll turn to bad ways in life. Because it will give him that Shri Shri Radha Gokul Nanda Ki Jai. They get angry and they turn to other forms to try and make them feel better. But that, whatever it is, the intoxication, the other bad ways of life, it's all very temporary. So Krishna in this 10th verse is saying, these three things you must get rid of. Rag, Bhaya, Krodh. Attachment, fear, and anger. So, what can we do to get rid of these three things? Krishna says in the third line, Manmaya mam upashritaha. He says, so become fully absorbed in me, Manmaya, and take refuge in me, says Krishna. Take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by a spiritual master. When we read the Bhagavad Gita, I don't know if you've read it or not, but I know the first time I read it, so wow, this is great, but there's big chunks of it. I have no idea what Srila Prabhupada's talking about here. There's certain bits in it you can pick out and you can underline and think, yep, this means it's very good. But there's big bits in it that you don't understand. And the more you read, the more you understand, the more you find out. Every time I read the Bhagavad Gita, something new turns up. And why is that? Because you've started getting into your Krishna consciousness, you started performing a devotional service, and therefore your purification is started. And therefore you're starting to understand it a bit more. In the 10th chapter, Krishna says exactly that. I won't just show myself to you just because you ask. Show me that you want to know me. Perform some devotional service for me. Show me that you're serious, and then I will show you, and I will give you the knowledge, and I will give you everything you need. And therefore, when you start reading the Bhagavad Gita, the more times you read it, the more comes to you. But there is no better way to understand the Gita or any of the scriptures than to go to a bona fide spiritual master. Go to someone who knows. Keshav Maharaj says in his Gita life course when he used to do that, he said it's one thing to read the Gita, it's one thing to understand the Gita, but it's a completely different thing to live the Gita. It's very easy to read it. Anyone can read a book. And to understand it, okay, with a little bit of, reading around, you might start to understand bits of it. But then what are you going to do with that? You need to go and live the Gita. Krishna's teachings, Put it into practice into your life. And even better than that, Krishna says in the 18th chapter, there is no one more dear to me than he. What's he talking about? He's talking about those who go and preach his word. So once you've read it, and then you start to understand it, and you've gone to a spiritual master who teaches you exactly what it means and how to live it, and then you start to live it, then don't keep it to yourself. Give it to everybody else, because this is what Krishna wants. He wants nothing more than us to go back to him. We are all his children, and he loves us more than we love him. So, in the last line, he says, Putamad bhavam agataha. Prabhupada said that the last stage of devotional life is bhav, or transcendental love for God. And that's what it means in this last line. Mad bhavam, transcendental love for me. You know, there's a really nice analogy that gets used, I think, in the Nectar of Instruction. It says a diseased person suffering from jaundice does not relish the taste of sugar candy. However, one must know that for jaundice, sugar candy is the only specific medicine. So when somebody's got, I don't know if you know, but when somebody has jaundice, if you give them something sweet, it tastes really bitter to them. Sugar tastes very, very bitter to them. And so the analogy says, similarly, in the present confused state of humanity, Krishna consciousness, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the only remedy for setting the world aright. So I asked at the beginning, how many of you are chanting? There were a few of you there. And I asked, how many of you are doing... Does anybody know why we call it minimum 16? Minimum rounds. Does anybody know why that term came about? See, initially, Srila Prabhupada had said to his disciples, you need to chant 64 rounds. And they were like, 64 rounds? Are you kidding me? Do you know how long 64 rounds takes? And we've got all this service to do. And so, you know, Srila Prabhupada, just like Krishna, very merciful, and he said, okay, I tell you what, let's not do 64, let's do 32 rounds. And still the disciples said, oh, man, 32 rounds, that's a lot of time still. I don't know if we can manage that either. So then Prabhupada said, okay, you know what, this is my final offer. We do a minimum of 16 rounds. No less. I'm not going any further down than that. And this is why we call it minimum 16, minimum rounds. So when we hear we're doing 16 rounds, and some people think, well, I've got to 16 rounds now, that's it. I've done it, I've reached my goal, everything's perfect, I just have to do that every day. No, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, that's 16 rounds. As Rupa Goswami said, the target is 24 hours a day. That's what we should be aiming for. Or get as close to it as possible. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who knows who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is? Anyone? Raise hands. Yeah, a few of you do. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came down as what we call a hidden incarnation, hidden avatar, because he came down as a devotee, and he had external and internal reasons for coming down. One of the things he wanted to know is, why do my devotees, why do they have so much love for me? Because he couldn't understand it himself, because he had nobody higher than him. So he couldn't feel that love for somebody else higher up. And so he came down. One of the reasons he came down was to see, what is it that my devotees love about me? But the other main point was that he came down, he was known as Patitpavan, savior of fallen souls. And he came down and he gave us the Mahamantra. In Kali Yuga, it's the simplest thing that we can have. He's made it as absolutely as simple as possible. In previous yugs, there were all sorts of yagnas and that you had to do. But Kali Yuga, Parikshit Maharaj in the Srimad Bhagavatam gets compared to a bee. And the reason for that is with a bee, he goes to a flower and he goes straight for the nectar. He doesn't look at anything else. He's not bothered about anything else. He's gone straight in for the nectar. Parikshit Maharaj, when he could see the onset of Kali Yuga, he said, there is something very beautiful here. And people were like, what do you mean, beautiful here? This is Kali Yuga. This is when the bad things start. But he said, the one beautiful thing in Kali Yuga is this, that simply by chanting the holy name, you can go back to Krishna. And this is what we have been given. We've been given these holy names, and it's all you've got to do. You've just got to chant the names. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wasn't, he didn't come down as a devotee and say, okay, you know what, well, I'm chanting 16 rounds, so I'm off back anyway. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, in simple terms, a combination of Radha and Krishna together. So he came down, he didn't think, well, I'm going to do what I've got to do and I can go back. It's not a problem. Save myself. He said, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says, Yaradeka tarikaha Krishna upadesh. He says, wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach them about Krishna. Teach them about the Bhagavad Gita. Teach them about the Srimad Bhagavatam. I don't want to be saved just myself. I want everyone to be saved. Come with me. Come back to Krishna. And all you've got to do is take the holy name. Take those beads and chant. Set aside a couple of hours in your day. You've 24... How many hours in the day? Good. You're listening. 24 hours in a day. It takes just 2.5 hours, 3 if you're much slower, to get 16 rounds, minimum 16 rounds done. And when you do that, the purification starts and you will start to see big changes in your life. And I'm not just saying this because it's written in the scriptures or somebody told me. I'm telling you this because I feel it myself from my heart. Prabhupada went through so much for us. And this is why we have had the Prabhupada Festival this weekend, to honor him, to go on a ship at the age of around 70, to have 2 heart attacks, to go to a country where he didn't even know anybody. He had next to nothing in his pocket, and he built up all this. One man. He says, give one life. Prabhupada says, give one life is all I'm asking you. Spend this life serving Krishna, getting back to Krishna. This human form of life that we have after millions and millions of lives. You have this one really golden opportunity to do this. And all I'm asking you to do is get some beads and chant the holy name and see what Krishna does for you. It's gone 10:02. I'm going to stop here. I hope that some of the words I spoke resonated with you. We've got a few minutes if anybody wants to. Have you got any comments or corrections even, or questions? Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes.
I read several times. You said that if we might have to chant 16 times of Hare Krishna. Suppose I'm chanting 16 times. But why not you saying that everybody is normal people? Because I came this country as a priest. At the moment I'm working for civil service. is not very much different to me. Work is worship. Work is worship. So whatever you're doing, you believe that God is omniscient. So even after, because I know my background, my experience for last 33 years in United Kingdom, and back in 7 years in, this is the first time I came 2013, then somebody was preaching and I asked one questions, because when I read the Gita, Prabhupada, Gita as it is, as you mentioned it, and then said Lord Krishna is the Godhead. Then I said, if I'm believing the Lord Brahmas, what makes difference? And I saw the same courtyard I was sitting that day, and he correctly said, it's not very much different. And I read the Prabhupada's own script, he said Lord Krishna Rama, and that's what was trying to. So what my request to you as a holy person, worshipability, just 16 mala if somebody is doing, that means 2 and 2.5 hours. What remaining 22 hours? So work is worship. Why not they're making chapati, they're doing the work, then the running business, everywhere they believe Lord Krishna's presence.
So as I understand it, Prabhu is just saying that you're saying 2.5 hours, chant your minimum 16 rounds. What about the rest of the time? All your work you're doing is service as well. Here's the thing. Yes, work is service, but when you're doing this work, are you thinking of Krishna? That's the key. So, like many people will be working in offices and that. What's a good way to remember Krishna while you're at the office? Well, we all have many, many, many passwords that we have to put into our whatever systems we log into. So every password that you have, make it something from the Shastras. Many devotees have Krishna 108, so you could easily hack into a devotee's laptop. But you can choose anything, any name, and that in itself is service to Krishna. So whatever you're doing, Krishna is saying, whatever you do in the 9th chapter, he says that anything you do, whatever you do, offer it to me. Whatever it is you're doing. Somebody said the other day in a class, before you start doing anything in the day, just think to yourself, Krishna, I'm going to do this for you. I'm doing this with you in mind. So you may only do 2.5 hours of chanting, it's fine, and you have another 20-odd hours in the day. But if every single thing you do, you are linking in some way to Krishna, then you're serving Krishna 24 hours a day. It's not that you have to sit in a temple room and pray all day. Everything you do, when you cook something, offer it to Krishna first. When you're singing something, sing kirtans. When you're talking to somebody, having a conversation, talk to them about Krishna, about Bhagavad Gita, about the temple, about the deities, how beautiful they looked. This is all service to Krishna. Is that okay, Prabhu? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for the question. We've got just a couple of more minutes. If anybody's got any quick questions or before the Guru Aarti starts. Any other questions or comments? Or even corrections? Don't think because I'm sitting here that I'm right all the time. I'm learning just like everybody else. No? Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for listening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna! Hare Krishna! Welcome to Srila Prabhupada's Festival Weekend. We now have Guru Aarti. Tonight, we sing, we dance from our hearts, because Lord Krishna and the other deities and Radha are here to listen to you. to see you dance, to hear you chant. So please, dance from your heart tonight, sing from your heart, and share everything that you have, because you get that beautiful benefit from it as well. Please can I ask all the ladies to go on the other side of the room and all the men on this side of the room as normal for Gaura Aarti. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, you leading?
Yeah.
Stand. And any of the mats on the floor, please can you pick up the mats and just put them by the door, please. All the mats on the floor can be placed by the door, please. Stacked up. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
जय जय श्री राधा गोकुल नंद की जय जय श्री राधा गोकुल नंद की सीता राम लक्ष्मण हनुमान की सीता राम लक्ष्मण हनुमान की जय श्री गौरानिताय की जय जय श्री राम प्रभुपाद की जय जय श्री राम प्रभुपाद की जय गौरानिताय 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 जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय 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 जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय 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 जय गौरानिताय जय प्रभुपदा 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 श्रीला प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा 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 श्रीला प्रभुपदा जीव जयो जयो गोरा चंदे आरती को शोभा जीव जयो जय गोरा चंदे आरती को शोभा ध्यान बेटा मने जग मन लोभा देखी निताय चाँद बने गदधारा काते आदित्य श्रेणी वस चतधारा खुशी નસીબ બસાને આરતી કોરે ના બ્રહ્મા આદિ દેવ ગાને નરહરિ આદિ કોરે કમર દુલારા સંજય મુકુંદ વાસુ ઘોષ અધિગાયા સંજય મુકુંદ વાસુ ઘોષ અધિગાયા શંખ બાજે ઘંટ બાજે બાજે કરતારા શંખ બાજે ઘંટ બાજે બાજે કરતારા મધુરા મૃદંગ બાજે અજમર સાલા મધુરા મૃદંગ બાજે પરમર સાલા શંખ બાજે ઘંટ બાજે મધુર 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 બાજે 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 માધુર 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 બાજે માધુર 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 બાજે માધુર 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 બાજે હરિ બોલ હરિ બોલ જય ગોરા હરિ બોલ જય ગોરા હરિ બોલ હરિ બોલ હરિ બોલ જય ગોરા હરિ બોલ બહુ કોટી ચંદ્રજીની વદન ઉજાલા ચંદ્રજીની વદન ઉજારા કાલા દેશે વાનમાલા કોરે જલમાલા શિવા સુખ નારદા પ્રેમે ગદગદા સુખ નારદા પ્રેમે ગદગદા ભક્તિ વિનોદા દેખે ઘોરા સંપદા જીવ જયો ગોરા ચંદ્રે આરતી કો શોભા विष्णुपदाय कृष्णाप्रसाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिले सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवाणी पश्यताई देशताईने कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत्या गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवेंदा जय चैतन्य नित्यानंदा Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय गौरनिताय 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 जय गौरनिताय 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 जय प्रभुपदा 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 श्रीला प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा 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 श्रीला प्रभुपदा प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल 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 जय राधा गोकुल नंद राधा गोकुल नंद राधा गोकुल नंद राधे राधे जय राधा गोकुल नंद राधा गोकुल नंद राधा गोकुल नंद राधे राधे बोलो राधे 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 बोलो राधे राधे बोलो राधे राधे बोलो श्री राधे बोलो श्री राधे जय राधा गोकुल नंद राधा गोकुल नंद राधा गोकुल नंद राधे राधे हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल 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 हरि बोल
We can offer our respects to the Supreme Lord and the saintly personalities. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajakacarya Astottara Sata Shri Srimad Abhay Charanaravindra Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki ISKCON BBT founder Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की अयोध्यापुरी धाम की गंगा माई यमुना माई की भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So if possible, please take a seat. We're going to conclude the Aarti ceremony by offering prayers unto Lord Nrsimhadev, and then we're going to have some important announcements which will be given by Karan Prabhu, and Nrsimhadev prayers will be led by Arun Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Palad lad daine. Palad lad daine. Hiranyakashi Purvaksha. Hiranyakashi Purvaksha. Shila Kankana Kalaile. Shila Kankana Kalaile. Edo Narsimha Parato Narsimho. Edo Narsimha Parato Narsimho. Yato Yato Yamitato Narsimha. Yato Yato Yamitato Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimho. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimho. Narsimha Madim Sharanam Prapade. Narsimha Madim Sharanam Prapade. Ab kar kamlavare nakham adhuta shinga. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tarubhinga Keshavadhirtha Narhari Rupa Jai Jagdish Hare Jai Jagdish Hare Jai Jagdish Hare बलदेव भगवान की, प्रहलाद महाराज की, शिला प्रभुपाद की, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे।
If everyone can please raise their hands and repeat after me. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Thank you so much everyone for coming. Please don't go yet. We have amazing kirtans. Just give us a few moments to set up over here. If you haven't done so already, please take some prasadam. It's currently being served in the Haveli. And the next Aarti will be at 9 o'clock. So next darshan will be at 9 o'clock. So yeah, please don't go anywhere. And thank you very much for coming. We hope to see you again very soon. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Krishna Hare
Ram Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bolo a bit louder Again, everybody together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, and again, everybody. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Gokula Nand, Radha Gokula Nand, Radha Gokula Nand, Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Gokula Nand, Radha Gokula Nand, Radha Gokula Nand, Shri Radhe. Jai Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jai Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jai Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jai Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jai Gaurani Sai, Gaurani Sai, Gaurani Sai, Jai Gaurani Sai. Jai Gaurani Sai, Gaurani Sai, Gaurani Sai, Jai Gaurani Sai. Jai Gaurani Sai, Gaurani Sai, Gaurani Sai, Jai Gaurani Sai. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaura Premananda.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare
Right. How much can you learn on the lessons? Huh? How much can you learn on the lessons? It's not for me. Please teach us. Per hour. That's crazy. Why does it depend? Where would you do it? Yeah, then I feel like it is way more expensive.
No, but kids just want to learn like basic things.
It's £25 and we expect you to learn everything. Most of you challenging, if you get to play something.
Where would you do it?
Either in person or online.
No, but where? I can't hear it. 25 kids house. 25 hours. 25 kids. Oh my god. I don't mind.
I didn't hear what you said actually, but I felt what you said clearly.
That was perfect size for me.
I'm going to love you and love you. So sick. Those in the corner.
I don't want to take someone else. Bro, you're a little kid of so cute, man.
It's hard work.
Yeah, I can tell.